to offer my pranams, the divine lotus feet of our beloved Master, God, for this opportunity for sharing some of my journey or some of my experiences with him to all of you. I came to Swami as a high school student, or Swami came to me when I was a high school student, better put that way. I was born in a small town called Tenali, which is in the coastal district of Guntur district in India. Then moved to Hyderabad for high school. And I was pretty active those days. I used to, be a runner and sportsman. So I still remember very, very vividly that I would run on Sunday mornings, or even Thursday mornings on the Shivam Road in Hyderabad. The Shivam is a temple that Swami had built, a center that Swami had built in the 70s for his devotees in Hyderabad. So I would run every day, starting from my house all the way to the university, which is basically you have to pass Shivam and then come back. So I would go at 5 o'clock or 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I was in probably 8th or 9th grade, I think. And I would pass some of the active devotees participating in Nagar Sankirtan. I would cross them and then, I would come back. I always thought, what is this group of people singing these bhajans in the morning at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, disturbing everybody else. I was literally almost, look at them in a not so positive way, and then I would run. But, lo and behold, in a few years, maybe 2-3 years later, I was one of the devotees who was singing Nagar Sankirtan. In fact, actually, it all came back to me. I remember on the 23rd of April, 2011, I was, Nagar Sankirtan in the morning that day, when Swami was in hospital, singing Swami's bhajans and so on. So that was my background. So I also came from a background of, my parents were very devout Hindus, very ritualistic practices they had at home. They didn't really believe in Swami or, in fact, for the matter, any guru other than Lord Rama, Krishna, or Hanuman, and so on. They were very pious and devoted people. So years passed by. 3 years later, I was preparing in my 11th grade. I was preparing for my, in India, especially where I grew up, for joining a college. After your 12th grade, you have to take an examination. And then if you qualify in the examination, and you can join a college of your choice. So I was preparing for this examination. This was in 12th grade, I apologize. During the summertime, I used to go to a coaching center, a tutoring center, where they would train you on how to take the exam. So the routine was that I would take a bus in the morning at 5 o'clock, go to this place about maybe 15 kilometers or 10 miles away, and then spend next 2-3 hours there and then come back home. So one day, when I was in the bus, I met with another student, similar age group, same age as me, who was sitting, right across where I was sitting, and he was reading a book, Swami's book. So immediately I sort of looked at him in a very condescending manner and asked him a question: "Hey, how come you have an exam in 3 months? How come you're wasting your time reading these books of, some Baba and so on?" So, of course, that was my first introduction to him. And we used to argue every day on a daily basis, every day in the bus, about Swami and how I would tell all this is fraud, and how he would tell. He was going to, or he went to a school in Hyderabad built by Swami at Swami's school in Hyderabad. So he would tell me wonderful miracles, or great things that he's either experienced or he has heard or read about. So those are my discussions for 3 months. Obviously, I think during those 3 months, things were changing in me. Obviously, I went from a complete non-believer to someone who really was interested in Swami's work, because I was so inspired by the work that was happening in various samitis in Hyderabad. So I asked him one day, "Hey, why don't you tell me where I should go to participate in Narayan Seva, the poor feeding that used to happen those days?" So he said, he was pretty happy that I asked this question. And he said, why not? Why don't you come and join me? That was Saturday. Come and join me tomorrow. Every Sunday of the month, from 9 a.m. to noon, we cook food and distribute food to the people in the slums. And they would come to where we are, and we would distribute the food to them. So I went the next day, and a bunch of things happened that day. Right? And I'm still in the phase where I was, trying to understand Swami. Of course, very interested in the work that he's doing, but really understanding, we're trying to see what do I believe him or not, in that sense. So that day, just a background, this place where we were making food and distributing to a bunch of people who come from slums. Adjacent to that, there's a church, and church also was doing something similar. So similar time, same time, I think 9 o'clock, church also was cooking and feeding people, poor people. So on average, we would get about 200 people, I think 200 people from slums for this, and so the volunteers there would cook the food, for 200 people, and then serve them. That's the routine that they've been following. On first Sundays, they would also offer them clothes and so on. So that Sunday, the very first Sunday I went, it so happened that the church, which was adjacent to this building, was they had to close a church, or there was some problem there. So the Narayan Seva wasn't happening in the church. So suddenly, all the people from the church who were going there for food, they all came to this particular our place where we were offering food. So immediately, since I was new and of course very active in the sense that I wanted to go serve, so I was really putting myself there and say, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I saw the numbers of people, because I heard 200 people, but the numbers looked way more than that. So I was kind of panicking, and I asked the brother, what's going on? How can we do this? Do we actually, because I think they would cook in the morning and bring the food, or like they would bring enough groceries. So there's no way we can actually cook more food. It's not possible. So I was in a sort of panic position, but all the folks there, volunteers, the elders there, they were pretty calm. They said, "Don't worry, Swami will figure out something." So they started serving. So what they did was they opened the big dishes where they cooked. They put some vibhuti in it and then closed them. And then at 9 o'clock they offered Brahmarpanam and started serving. They served, I think, 450 or 500 meals that day, right? The same amount of food they cooked for 200 people. And I think these were like sumptuous meals, right? They're not like some pulihara or something like that. They actually would make them a 4 or 5 course meal, like a dessert and everything. So they served that many people with the same amount of food that was prepared for 200 people. So I was really just taken away and really amazed by what had happened there. And they all said, what, I think Swami always takes care of these things. So this is nothing. This is very normal. They have seen this so many times. In fact, the most interesting thing is I remember counting the number of seed boxes that would offer them. I think each box would hold about maybe 30 laddus. So we had maybe around 70 boxes, right? But everyone who came that day was served a laddu, right? And these numbers were more than, like I said, 400 or something, 400, 400. So that was my first sort of introduction to the Leelas of Swami. And then I really got interested in it. And then the next, I think this happened in maybe June timeframe or end of May timeframe. And then the next few weeks, I was at every Seva activity that was happening in Hyderabad. I would go there, be the most active volunteer there. It would be medical camps, or it'd be Narayan Seva, or it can be anything, any activity that needed physical, help. I would go there and participate there. So sometime in late June or early July, there was a word sent from Prashant Nilayam that Swami is going to be visiting Hyderabad in July to inaugurate a marriage hall or function hall that the organization had built. Swami had built. I think it's called the Sathya Kalyana Mandapam. Swami was going to be present to inaugurate the place. Prime Minister of India would be their chief guest. The Swami would be there in Hyderabad for 3 days, and then so that was and they were looking for young people to come and serve in the canteen. Also, the group that I was part of in Hyderabad, they're also were very active in many other things. So they actually, in fact, this is all sort of Hyderabad group how it formed. But basically, this group said, okay, we'll take care of the canteen. That's something that that's not a problem. But what else we can do to impress Bhagawan? And I haven't seen Swami yet, in physical form. I've seen photographs of him. So the idea that one of the brothers brought was, hey, when Swami comes from Hyderabad, from Puttaparthi, we will bring him to Shivam, in a pilot escort. So you would have, pilots on motorbikes, like how we have, pilots escorting dignitaries or VIPs, and Swami is the most, the biggest of all the VIPs ever. So this thought came to them, and they went to speak to Dora uncle, whom some of you might know. He was the police commissioner then, and he was like, okay, he didn't want to snub our enthusiasm. He said, okay, you prepare, and we'll see what Swami would say. Swami will be ready. If Swami wants, it can happen. So then they formed, so the idea was to have 7 pilots, in a formation where you would have one in the front, two in the middle, 2 in the back, 2 on both sides of Swami's window, and then 2 in the back, and then 1. So they basically had this formation, and so we practiced. So we had one core team that was supposed to be the sort of team that would do this, and then they would have a B team. Where in case if someone had fallen sick or something happens, there is someone else readily available to sort of take another pilot's role. So me being, so I put my name and said I want to be on it. I didn't even have a bike. So they said, okay, since I was that time, like I said, very active, most enthusiastic, volunteer they could find, said, okay, why don't you be in the B team? Because of course I was very new to Swami, didn't know how to, what to do and so on. He said, why don't you be in the B team? And then, if need arises, we will call you. So I practiced with my other brothers every day, and then we all ready to, receive Swami in Shivam at Hyderabad airport. So on that one great day, Swami had come, and of course, I was not all the brothers, Swami's grace, they were all fine that day. So they all dressed up in the as the pilots or escorts they would call, and then they were all ready to receive Swami. So the folks who didn't make the cut, we all decided, we don't want to be left out. So let us take our bikes and just go and drive behind Swami's car as a normal, regular people, right, would have. So Swami arrived, and this wonderful group of 7 brothers, they all were, as soon as Swami came on the stage or the aircraft, they were lined up and ready to on the bikes, well dressed. And Swami, obviously Swami acted surprised as if he was, he didn't know anything about it. He's surprised and he smiled and said, "Go." So that's when that group basically, so the thought was that group would be, escorting Swami from Hyderabad airport to Shivam, and then that would be the end of it. So, but Swami, with his amazing magnanimous grace, he allowed them to be his pilots for the next 3 days, and there's so many stories there. So Swami would talk to us during his stay in Shivam. Every day he would talk to us, the folks who were his escorts or pilots, and also us, some of us, and tell us, interesting stories about his visit, to various dignitaries' houses in Hyderabad and so on. And of course, I was, while this was happening, so I was, I was at the canteen, serving lunch, breakfast, dinner to many, many thousands and thousands of devotees who came to see Swami. It was like Swami came to Hyderabad after maybe 15 years. So there was just, the crowds were just, unbelievable how many people came. So I was, I spent all my time, every day, go in the morning at 4 or 3 o'clock in the morning from my house and go then. Again, the background is, I said my parents were, not really into it. So they would look at me and say, why are you wasting your time? You have an exam to take and so on. But I would have nothing of it. So I would go in the morning at 3 or 4 o'clock and come back late in the night. So really had an amazing time, right? Of course, and Swami had talked to us. He didn't talk to me personally, but I was, sitting in the group, and he would tell us various things and a lot of questions he would ask, and Swami would answer them patiently and so on. On the last day of his trip, he was leaving for back to Puttaparthi. He called the group, and he said, so one of the brothers said, Swami, we want to come and see you in Puttaparthi soon. And Swami was so happy. He said, absolutely, come for Dasra. This was in July. Come for Dasra, which happens normally in September, October timeframe. He said, come for Dasra, and he went away. So after Swami left, and this is something that we always used to do, and the practice still continues. We would debrief after every activity of ours, debrief, and so we wanted to discuss how things went, what were the things that we learned from this experience, and so on. And then, of course, talk about the October trip because Swami wanted us to come for Dasra. So during the discussion, one of the brothers said we should go in October but let us do something very different, very unique. So one brother said, okay, what would be that unique thing be, right? And they said, okay, let's all go on cycles or bicycles, right? The two-wheelers, not the motorbikes, the bicycles, to Puttaparthi. So the idea, immediately everybody said, yeah, let's do it, right? I mean, it seemed like a great thing to do. In fact, pretty normal idea. No one had by then, have done this, right? So we prepped for it for the next 2 months or so. I came back home, immediately after the meeting. My parents said, if you go, don't come back, right? They said, like, what, you have a lot of. I just got into college. Said you just joined a college, and there's no way you can go. And sorry, you've done your bit there, and I think now it's time to focus on your school and so on. So fair enough. I think obviously I didn't have the courage or anything to say no to my parents. I said fair enough, and I left it at that. But my heart was really in it. I wanted to go there with the group. So on the day of again, back in October, the group was ready to go, and they had a wonderful bhajan session, and then they all left from Hyderabad on bicycles. And these days I'm talking about 92, I think. There were no mobile phones. They would go and then they planned a trip. Basically, they would bike for, let's say, 90 kilometers or so every day, and then stay in either on a chowdhury or on like some sort of a place, a function hall, or if there is a samiti there, someone's house, and so on. They plan a trip where they would go there for 5 days. So the group left. And then, in the night, the folks, me and a couple of other brothers who didn't go, obviously our heart is there, but but obviously we couldn't go. So they would call us and tell us on the phone, the long distance phone or landline phone, long distance landline. They would call and say they had so much fun, they were biking, and they reached there at a certain place, and what they did during the bike trip. And so we were really even more getting, anxious and really feeling missed out and left out. So on the fourth day, this was, I think, the group, we've done the math, the group would reach Anandpur that fifth day morning, sorry. And then we said, three of us, three of us sat who didn't go. And he said, hey, how do we go? How do we make it happen? One brother said, I really can't do it. I'm sorry. So me and another brother, basically a friend of mine, we said, let us go. Come what may, I think we should not miss out on this opportunity, right? So that evening, so what we said is, okay, let's figure out a way for us to leave Hyderabad. Let us put our bikes or cycles on the bus, get off at Anandpur, and join this group to go to Puttaparthi. So I came back home in the evening. I told my parents, that this is a common lie that I used to, all students at that age, and at least my classmates, my friends, used to tell their parents, I'm going to visit my friend for a sleepover at combined studies. I'm going to study at his house and then come back tomorrow morning. So, my parents trusted me and they said, okay, you can go there. So I took my bike and basically went to bus station. And then, my other friend came. Both of us put our bikes on the bus, and then, told my parents, called them and said, actually, I'm going to Puttaparthi. My mother and father were very upset, but I think they didn't really have anything so they said, we'll decide when we'll see when you're back. So we went to, we took the bus, we got off at Anandpur, and the idea was to quickly brush and find a place to go to the bathroom and so on, and then find the group and then join them. So we got off the highway and then asked around and said, where are this, I think we have maybe about 20 or 30, 25 or 30 boys on bikes. Have you seen them? They said, yeah, we've seen them. They already, left 2 or 3 hours ago, because the group decided that they want to be in Parthi at a certain time. So they left way early. So by the time that we reached, they already left, maybe 3 or 4 hours ago. They might have even reached Prashant Nilayam. So my friend and I, so we said, okay, what? That's fine. Let's just, now take this, start biking and then go to Puttaparthi by evening, and then we'll join the group. So we biked. So it was about maybe 50 kilometers, I think, or about maybe 40 miles. So we biked halfway, and it was already super hot. And then you can imagine, we never really biked for that long in our lives. So we biked about 30 kilometers, so 20 miles. And then we're so tired. And then we reached a place called Battalpalli, which is sort of comes midway from Anandpur. And they said, okay, let's go to the restaurant and have some breakfast, and then drive and see if we can bike for them. So as soon as we went into this restaurant, the brother and I almost felt the same. We said, brother, I think there's no way we can bike. I think we have no gas left. Let us eat some breakfast and see if we can take the bike. What is it? Anyway, we biked. Even when we started telling others, even if you bike a kilometer, it's enough, or bike a mile, it's enough. Swami knows our devotion and so on. So we biked. We had breakfast. I still remember, we ate this bondas, or like round things called Mysore bondas. I mean, that's the first time I had in that, ever. I didn't never had them before. I think they don't make this, never used to make them in the place where I grew up. It's more like a Rayalaseema kind of a dish. So we both of us had maybe 2 rounds of those bondas, and found the next truck on the road, went to Puttaparthi. So reached Puttaparthi that evening, and our brothers were pleasantly surprised, and then we all reunited, very happy. And that night, first time I stayed in a shed. I mean, shed was an experience on its own. I think no lights, no power, full of mosquitoes, and like few bathrooms. The shed, Dasara time, I think there is crowds are like swelling. It was like an experience that I've never experienced in my life. Of course, I came from a lower middle class family. Not that we had a decent, comfortable life, but nothing like this. This is like something which I can't even imagine how it was. So slept in the shed. In the morning, we all got up in the morning at 4 o'clock. The bathrooms were very filthy, and somehow we got them ready, and then lined up. And then in the morning, Swami, and that night, that morning when I was leaving the ashram, leaving the shed to the ashram, to the bhajan hall there, I thought, I think this place is just not for me. I think it's just not really, it is too uncomfortable. I'll have darshan to that and leave. The other important point here to remember is that since I left, just completely, from Hyderabad without telling my parents, I had no money. I only had money for the bus ticket, which I think I borrowed from someone, and I had no money to even go back as well. So we all lined up, in Prashant Nilayam. Swami came that morning, and he, said how many people, and we told the number. And Swami, I mean, some of us who had this opportunity would probably understand this. Swami would say, there's not enough room there, so I'll see. That evening, Swami did call us. Swami sent a word, send the cycle group to in. So the cycle group was called. So the group decided to go. Now my friend and I were in dilemma. We are not technically in the cycle group because we didn't really do we biked for 30 kilometers. So we're not, we didn't really truly belong, to the group. So we decided to, and the brother, the leader of the group said, he felt, he understood our, agony and our desire to be there. But at the same time, obviously what the Swami would, reprimand him. So he said, why don't you wait and we'll see. So they all went in. And this brother, once they all went and settled, and Swami came in and started talking to them. And this brother had the, I would say this again, all Swami as well. He said, Swami, have to something to share. So Swami said, AMD, what is it? And then he said, Swami, there are 2 other boys, Swami. This is what they didn't really bike. They only bike for this distance. But they should, do you want me to call them? They're Swami, Chinnapallal Swami, they're very young. They have not seen anything before Swami, before in Prashant Nilayam. Swami, with his, magnanimous grace and compassion, he said, they call them. So my friend and I went in, then the brother and I went in, and we were sitting all the way in the back. As soon as we sat in the back in the corner in the first entry room, Swami looked at us and said, how are those bondas? And then, of course, everybody else didn't have didn't know what happened. So Swami was telling them they actually, do you think they all, biked and they actually had such a good time? They had bondas and, they came happily. So that's the first sort of experience that I can share where I really saw Swami's omniscience, right? I mean, basically, Swami knows everything. There's nothing to hide. He knows everything. And there's he knows our present, past, future, and multiple janmas and so on. So in that's sort of really the inaugural of the many cycle trips that happened. I think from 92 to 9, I think so 7 years, the group went on bicycles. I was there a few times, but I didn't go all 7 years because I came to US, in the 96 to go to grad school. So in that trip, I think a lot of things have Swami revealed for me personally, so that I can strengthen my faith. So Swami talked to us. Swami was like a parent, right? He would ask, very basic questions and say, how are you? How are your parents? He would talk to each one of us and ask what you want to study, like how a concerned parent would normally do. At the end of the interview that day, or at least Swami took some of us inside, some of the boys inside, some of us were waiting outside, and Swami took us inside in batches. And then we all came back into the outer interview room. There, Swami had two at that time. Had two interview rooms. One would be like a public room where everybody will be sitting there. And Swami, if he wants to talk to someone in private, he would take them to a different room. So when we all came back to the main interview room, and he was about to see us off with some good words of wisdom, one thing he said is, and Swami asked Swami, we would like to do this every year. And Swami said, wonderful. I was very happy first when he heard that. And he said, but don't just come like this. When you're driving through the roads, people are looking at you and said, who are these rowdies, who are coming? And at that time, I think there was in India, at least in Andhra Pradesh, there was a very prevalent, I would say, terrorist movement or a Naxalite movement where, folks and Naxals would come into villages and and threaten people and so on. So they were looking at you as Naxals. So and so please come in and do actually see if you can stop in villages and do some service and come. That was sort of what the kickoff of official way or unofficial way of Gram Seva. And then so we were so happy that we got the guidance from Bhagawan, and we were all about to leave. I had this thought that I wanted to ask something. So I asked Swami something. My dad, by then, he was only, I'm the youngest of 5. I have 4 sisters, youngest of 5. My dad was in his early 50s, I think. He had a multiple bypass surgery a few years ago, and he wasn't really doing well. And he had, a few years of service where he could work for another 8 years or so in the government before he retires. And then, my sisters are all not married, they're all going to college and so on. So there's so many responsibilities, as a lower middle class person. So I wanted to ask Swami, please take care of my father and his health. But being the youngest in the group then, and also very new, I didn't have the courage to open my mouth and ask, because I was afraid that I didn't want others to know about my situation. And also I didn't have the courage to, I was scared for some reason. So then somehow I stomached some courage and I looked at Swami and said, Swami. And then Swami looked at me straight. In fact, there's a picture somewhere. I'll hopefully get this picture. Swami looked at me in my eyes. I was, in the corner there. He said, in Telugu, I'll say, and in English, paraphrase it. Swami said, Bangaru, Swami anda dandiga undi. Emi bhayapadaku. Swami said, Swami's grace, Bangaru is dear, like a deer. Swami's grace is in abundance. So don't have any fear. So that was the assurance that Swami gave me, and my dad lived for several years, and there were some stories how Swami came and helped him and so on later, but at some other time I can share that. So and then so we were leaving once he gave that assurance and he was seeing us off, and Swami, the practice is Swami would stay at the door, and then he would give us vibhuti prasadam in vibhuti packets, and then he would give Padnamaskar, and people would ask questions at whatever. So my turn came, and again I took Padnamaskar. Swami gave me vibhuti, and he said, looked at me in the eye and said, "Don't worry. From next time onwards, you don't need to stay in the shed. I'll give you a room to stay." Right. So again, I think the thought I had in the morning when I was leaving, that that Swami was answering that again, sort of answering some prayers that I've not really spoken in public, then, but really Swami answered me again, a sign of his omniscience. He was really proving I mean, I think prove is a wrong word, but I guess when you're an 18-year-old, with so many distractions and so many negative things happening, you wanted to anchor your faith, in God, in a sense. So that was the second opportunity, the second instance where he did that. So we went back and sat and I think Swami would always do this. And in fact, a sister was mentioning earlier that after the bhajans, please leave silently and don't have any chatter or anything like that, because you would carry vibrations and you want to take them all the way to your house and potentially for days to come. So Swami told us that when you're leaving the room, a lot of people will come to you and ask you what happened. Don't talk to anyone. Just go back to your rooms, or go back, sit in the darshan, and then after that, go back to your rooms. So we done that. We stayed for the next 2 days in Prashant Nilayam doing seva. And finally, on the day of our leaving, Swami gave us all, again, Pad Namaskar. And then he would go to everyone and he had an envelope where he put an envelope in each one's pocket, like and like a parent, right? If you're seeing off, or if if he blessed you, if you see you, typically parents, elders would give you something like a gift. So he gave an envelope to everyone. He came to me and he basically said, put an envelope in a pocket and said, "ఇది coffee double," means like this is the money for coffee. So I didn't understand. I was not actually. I didn't drink coffee those days, but I prayed, and then we all came out. And then now, like I said, we all were pretty eager to see what is there in the envelope. We all thought it could be a picture, or it could be something, or some trinket or something like that. So we opened. Each of us had, Swami put 100 rupees, for everyone, 100 rupee note, a crisp note. And when I opened my envelope, I had 250 rupees in mine. Everybody had 100 rupees. I had 250 rupees. The 150 rupees was the exact ticket amount, money that I need, ticket, and also like an auto rickshaw ride back to my place. So again, I think Swami's generosity, and it's just amazing how he takes care of everything that you need without even asking. That's one lesson that I've learned from that trip. Of course, post that, multiple trips, Hyderabad group would go to Puttaparthi on bicycles, like I said, many times, many trips. In fact, just maybe today we'll spend only some time on bicycle trips, and if opportunity arises, we'll talk about something else. Those trips, I think, were such a, so the next year, right? Once Swami gave us this opportunity, next year we were all ready. So we were ready to go. So the bikes were all old Indian bikes. They don't know gears, just one single gear bikes. And then we would fill the bike with multiple, with so many things. We would put some clothes that we want to offer, some, rice and other pulses we want to donate. So basically each bike would weigh, we would have under 25, 30 kilos or 50 pounds of additional weight that we would carry on. And then would stop and give people on the streets and so on. So I think, and every time when we've been to Bangalore or wherever Swami was in those days, and when we used to reach Prashant Nilayam or Vrindavan, I think the word would get around that that the cycle boys are coming from Hyderabad, and there would be rousing welcome on the streets. People who would like offer aarti and so on when we're getting in. Into Prashant Nilayam, or even on the road as well. So just if you associate yourself with Swami and Swami's work, that's the respect that people will give you. It's really so inspiring. I mean, those and like I said, these bikes were so not tuned for this kind of biking. So I remember one time that one of the trips we reached Puttaparthi. And then we had a very difficult ride in a place called Gutti at Don. There's on the way, it's like a ghat road. And then, it was like, you go up and down. And finally, we reached Prashant Nilayam. All of us so tired, and some of us had, our legs were completely, tired. So Swami would ask us how the trip went, and and by the way, so for all these trips, Swami would hype so much about our trip to everyone in the in Prashant Nilayam, that my boys are coming from Hyderabad, they're doing this, the things that we're not even doing. That's a motherly love, right? Swami would typically a mother, or my mother even now, she's 80 years old. if I do this much, he would tell so much about it. So Swami would tell everybody that they are doing all these things, they're coming and so on. So the entire village of Puttaparthi and in Prashant Nilayam and the villagers would eagerly wait for this group. So that particular trip, I remember Swami asked us how the trip went, and we said, Swami, is one particular place, Swami, was very difficult at this time. This Gupti, this road is up and down. And Swami said, yes, I know. It was so difficult for you all to, the roads were so bad, and you were literally, and he would actually show us act. Said, you're just pedaling every pedal. He would say, Om Shri Sai Ram, like that. We would pedal, right? And he said, "Don't worry, I'm so happy that you're here." So during those the 3-4 years that I was part of cycle group, he would give us so many tell us so many things about how we should be as youth, how we should behave when we go to villages. He would give advice on career. He would tell us how we should prepare to be a Sevadar. One thing he would say is you have to be really fit. Right. Only if you're fit, you can actually, do a lot of physical work in a sense. So he would ask us to be ready. So many things that happened subsequently. Swami was preparing for us. Swami, for example, sent a group to Latur in Maharashtra when the huge earthquake happened. Swami asked for Hyderabad boys and said only they have the strength and potential and training, to go and be the Sevadal at this place. Similarly, whenever there were crowds, they expect a lot of big crowds in Prashant Nilayam. They would always call Hyderabad group. We would go there and for Seva activities. I remember, I think it was 70th birthday. I think they were expecting a lot of crowds, and a lot of crowds did come. So this particular person from East Godavari district in the east coast of Andhra Pradesh, they sent bags and bags, hundreds of kilos of rock salt, right? And in a truck, and they sent it to Swami. I think maybe 3 or 4 trucks of salt was sent, so that I think they can make prasadam for everybody this for birthday. So to even unload that, it's just it's an experience that you have to only go through. So they would call Hyderabad boys, you come and do it, and we would all happily just go there and barefoot. It's so hot, barefoot in the afternoon. Take those bags on our back and run, from the truck into the kitchen, drop them, right? And we were just so happy doing that. In fact, I remember those thick rock salt, they would bruise our bags and would be full of blood and so on. But none of us cared. I think our competition was who would, carry the most number of bags in that sense. So this was the training that we received those days. Many experiences. One thing that I would probably share and leave, because I'm currently serving as service coordinator. This is an amazing opportunity because Swami actually named the organization in India as Sathya Sai Seva organization. So I think Seva was given utmost importance by Bhagawan. So it's an Indian honor to represent that wing. In the US, it's really Swami's grace. So Swami, many interactions that he had. One thing I still remember, and I think one story that he told us about this. I think Dr. Reddy also shares a story. I think the Swami spoke about this story many times. This how the spirit of Seva, how we should do Seva. Swami told us a story. Apparently, one day there was a calf, stuck in mud. It was downpouring. So there was a flood happening that time. I think there was a calf that was stuck in the mud there, and then the calf was struggling to come out of this mud. And then all the little kids there, they were all basically, looking and sort of, trying to. They were all getting some entertainment. The kids, the villagers, they were all. None of them actually went and helped the calf to come out of that. They were all enjoying the sight. And then there walks in a farmer. Swami said, a Pandit or a Brahmin. He came and he straight away went to this area, and he picked up the calf and he himself struggled to bring the calf out and then put it outside. And then all the, of course, now the entertainment for the kids had stopped. And then, the man was so happy that he did that, and he moved on. He did that and moved on. So all the kids ran behind him, and he said, "Sir, why did you do this? We were so happy. We were actually enjoying this sight, and I'm sure the calf will come on its own. But you deprived us from this enjoyment. You should not have done it." The man said, uh, actually, I have not done it to help the calf. When I saw the calf, I actually felt quite pained. I felt my body was hurting. When I saw the calf stuck there, my body was hurting. So to relieve myself from this pain, I had to go there and bring the calf out. And now I'm pretty happy. My pain is gone. So Swami said that is the attitude with which we should serve. So it's really not about someone's pain. It's really understanding that, and if you feel that pain within you, and you do it as if you're relieving your pain, that is really, that sort of is the seva that he expects us to do, because it has no ego there, because there's no feeling of we helped the calf. We really did this work for helping ourselves. So these stories that Swami would tell when we were very young, so that the spirit of service would be ingrained in all of us, so that we could continue his work wherever we went. On that note, I would like to offer my gratitude to everyone there for listening, and thank you, Swami, for this opportunity. Jai Sai Ram.